Jesus moves on in verses 34 or 43 through following, and he uses a radical picture here, doesn't he? A picture of amputating one's hand, cutting it off, or chopping off a foot, or plucking out one's eye. And what is he doing? He's wanting to shock us. He's wanting to wake us up to the violent battle that you must engage in as you wage war against your own sin. And with each of these, he gives a warning that it would be better for you and I to limp into heaven than to strut into hell. He wants to wake us up. What is Jesus asking us to do? Is he really asking me to chop off my hand every time I sin? What he's asking us to do is to take our sin deadly serious. And the temptation might be to say, okay, he's not really serious about chopping off a limb or plucking out an eye. Friends, you and I aren't going to be tempted to take this text too far. No, where you and I will be tempted is not to take it far enough. To say, okay, he doesn't mean that, so I should be okay. No, you should feel very uncomfortable. Jesus wants us to take his warning seriously. How do we do this? Well, first of all, we must cut off all practices of sin. It's with our hands that we act, right? It's our hands that we do. We carry out our will in a way, right? We act, we take, we touch, we receive, we hit, right? We sin with our hands. And here the hand represents those sinful acts we are currently involved with. And so, friend, are you currently indulging in sin? Are you currently in an affair? Having an inappropriate relationship with someone who's not your spouse? Have you been indulging in pornographic material? Have you been stealing from your company? Have you been abusing your spouse or your children? Are you living a lie? Jesus says, take up your cross, deny yourself by cutting off these sins in your life. Put an end to it now. Because if you continue in them, Jesus says, you will go to hell. Do not be deceived, he says. You will reap what you sow. You sow to the flesh, you'll reap to the flesh and eternal destruction. Do not be deceived. You will go where the fire, Jesus says, is never quenched. There is not an ounce of relief in hell. You will go to the place where the worm never dies because it will eternally feast on you. It says it would be better for you to be drowned into the sea than to face the torments of hell that await. Be killing sin, my friend, or it will be killing you. Not only must we cut off all practices of sin, but Jesus says we need to also cut off every avenue to it. So if you're in sin now, end it now while you still have breath. But you also need to burn, light on fire every bridge to that sin. You need to put it to death. So with the hands we act, right? But with the feet we go. And that's why he talks about cutting off your foot. Feet take you places, right? It's the avenues by which you pursue things. And Jesus says you need to cut off all those avenues to your sin. That means you need to get rid of his or her number right now. Delete it from your phone. Remove your computer, unplug it, throw it away if you have to. If you can't handle a smartphone, get a dumb phone, okay? Confess your sins to your spouse. Confess your sins to another brother or sister here. Tell them all about it. Hold nothing back. And don't be offended when they continue to prod. And say, hold me accountable. Help me. Because my soul depends on it. Burn every bridge, my friend. Every bridge that leads to sin in your life. For whatever it costs you to cut ties with this world will not compare to what it'll cost you if you don't. Finally, cut it off right at the heart. Cut off all temptations for sin. This is what Jesus is getting at when he talks about your eye. The things you see, the things you desire, the things you long for. Jesus says you must also fight sin by killing it at the root. Get the Roundup, kills it all. Just spray it all on you, okay? Kill it at the root so it never comes back. Plucking out your eyes, killing sin within the heart, within the mind, where the battle begins. Where it begins. James puts it this way in James chapter 1. He says, but each of you is tempted. How are you tempted? James says this, when you are lured and enticed by your own desire. Then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. So the moment, my friend, that thought comes into your mind, whatever it may be, you've got to kill it then. Now, it might be like Joseph running from Potiphar's wife. You might just have to have a plan. I'm getting out of here. I'm throwing myself in the shower. Do something. Don't wave the white flag. Don't mull over it. Don't meditate on it. Don't dream about it. Don't say, it's safe as long as I have it here. Because James says the longer you think about it, soon enough your feet are going to take you right there and your hands are going to indulge in it. And what will it bring forth? Yes, sin. And sin brings forth what? Death. The death that Jesus is talking about here. You have to kill it. Here. Here. Inside you. You must fight it there. Because sin begins with the passions and the desires. Do you see why Jesus says you must deny yourself? This is waging war against yourself. It's not believing that silly slogan the world says, follow your heart. No, Jesus says that'll lead you to hell. Do not follow your heart. It is desperately sick and wicked. Do not kill it.